Thank you very much, Florence, and thanks, Francis, and thanks to all of you who organized this amazing, interesting discussion today. It is not just timely, but it is a discussion that is quite very, very intriguing because you're talking about awakening youth consciousness, and to awaken anyone's consciousness, it should be awakened for a reason, and the reason you put is plastic pollution. So what I'm going to do, especially in these 20 to 25 minutes or so, and I urge all our listeners from across the entire continent and across the world, please to really follow through the discussion, because most of the time when I discuss, people come back asking the same questions which have already been answered. So I urge and seek your indulgence to listen very carefully as we go through this conversation this afternoon. Thanks again to all of you. It is a great pleasure for me, actually, as I've said, to be here with you people. And what you're going to listen and see in this discussion is I'll use African proverbs to contextualize my points and to put in perspective what we need to do. And I would like to start with an unflattering African proverb, which is quite very, very instrumental in contextualizing the serious discussion before us today. And this proverb goes thus: no matter how beautiful and well-crafted a coffin looks, it will not make anyone wish for death. Whenever I think of plastic pollution across the entire African continent, this proverb comes to mind. While plastics form some of the most attractive, robust, and cheap daily use necessities, like packaging material, they cast a long shadow of doom. They spell doom for our own health. They spell doom to our economies. And they spell doom to the very environment in which we live in. As if that is not enough, when you put this within the economic perspective, across the entire African continent, the cause of plastic pollution to the marine sector alone is up to $92 million US in revenue lost each and every year as we speak. The cause of pollution, including plastics, in the African continent exceeds 400 billion US dollars each and every year. This is much higher than the cost of solving the problems of malnutrition that we face in the entire continent and the problems of sanitation in the African continent. On the health dimension, plastic pollution is responsible for one death in every 30 seconds in poorer countries, and most of those poor countries are in the African continent. Plastic material used to prepare, process, package, and store food material can contain over 4,000 chemical substances, including the dangerous carcinogens. As we're speaking today, it is no news to anyone who lives in this continent that cancer is Africa's new health burden. When you look at the environmental dimension, in addition to the health and economic aspects that I've already mentioned, plastic waste causes between 1 to 5% declines in benefits to human derived from oceans. And this is estimated to be up to about $33,000 US per ton in reduced environmental value. The situation is no different across most African countries. And if you take Ghana as an example, Ghana loses up to about 1.6% of its GDP, estimated at $290 million US each and every year, all due to the compounding effects of plastic waste. This includes 19,000 in premature deaths every year attributed to plastic pollution. I don't know about you, for those of you who are listening across the continent and beyond, I don't know about you, but what I know is that plastics are a clear death trap to Africa's socio-economic, to Africa's environmental and human health. A fatal and existential threat. It is an existential threat to the realization of the Sustainable Development Goals. Even more shocking is the fact that we have over 46% of African countries that have actually put in place plastic ban. That is good news, and that is excellent, and this government should be applauded. Making Africa the continent with the highest percentage of national plastic bans globally. This is good news, and that is a report card. But despite this legislative success, Africa remains the second most polluted continent on the entire planet. Between the 1990s and the year 2017, up to 285 billion worth of plastic was imported into the continent of Africa. This contradiction sums up Africa's Achilles of talk without action. We talk too much and we don't act. The crime of passing the buck of implementation responsibility where it matters is visible in us. And in this, we are all guilty. Me and you are guilty. All the citizens of the continent are guilty because we, the citizens, often fold our arms, ride our high horses, pointing fingers and blaming governments for the failures when we do not, first of all, blame ourselves for not taking action. We expect government to legislate. We expect government to formulate policy. We expect government to implement and monitor while we sit and watch from a distance. No, it doesn't work that way. The news I have for you guys and for all of us today is that it doesn't work that way. If you wait thinking that government will legislate, will formulate policy, will implement and monitor as you sit on a high horse and watch from a distance, grass will grow on your feet. Once there is an enabling environment, the role of government is to create an enabling environment. And once there is that enabling environment that is put in place, it is you and me, non-state actors, to exercise our creativity, to leverage on our talents, to leverage on our skills, and to formulate practical enterprise solutions that breathe life to such provisions. It is up to us as citizens to decide and take implementation as personal responsibilities. Let me repeat that again. It is up to us, regardless of what we do, and regardless of how old we are, to take implementation as personal responsibilities. And only then will we be able to reap the benefits of the extensive legislative bans that we see across the entire African continent today. And this is my message for you guys today. No matter where you are listening from, the message is simple: rise up. Rise up, and together, let us undertake implementation actions that unlock the benefits of multiple sustainable development goals. And as you do so, I have two words that should be your marching orders. And these two words are substitutes and alternatives. With substitutes, what happens is you convert plastic waste into valuable goods that can fetch a premium. And these productive items then take the place of waste in the environment. And when it comes to alternatives, you must come up with competitive replacements for plastics. And by this, cut off plastic so they don't get into the landfills in the first place. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, just as scriptures admonishes us that there is nothing new under the sun, there exists already model examples of youth just like you and me, who are selflessly applying themselves to already turn this challenge that we face and talk about in the continent into opportunities. But they are doing it differently. They are leveraging on what they have themselves, their skills and talents, in the process of what is called innovative volunteerism. That they retool their skills to be fit for purpose, to solve a problem, to address environmental issues, but in the course of doing so, become enterprising in nature. And they are doing so leveraging on what they have, their skills, their talents, their creativity, their energy, and enabling a non-restrictive regulatory environment that we already have in this continent. You know, we're in a continent that complains a lot. We say we don't have policy when we have policies. We say, no, it's always about someone doing it for us. Today, that must end. The example of young people, for example, in Cameroon, a young man who is having a degree in sociology took upon himself to recycle plastic waste into paving tiles. Inspired by innovative volunteerism, he ushered himself to retool his skills, and he leveraged the widely and freely available knowledge on the internet to train himself on making these tiles using easily available rudimentary material. He produced manuals for this, and today he is training other youths to join him in the solution process. These plastics pavements that he is making are 30% cheaper than cement blocks. They do not break, reducing breakage losses associated with cement blocks. They also do not fade like conventional cement blocks. And in addition to all these advantages, they take care of the environment by relieving it from choking plastics. And through this, SDG 1 is addressed on reducing poverty by creating income opportunities out of waste, because waste is a resource. And these young people are showing that. It also touches on SDG 3 on health and SDG 13 on climate action by reducing the amount of plastics that pollute, and SDG 6 on sanitation by providing an affordable means by which we can achieve clean sanitary living, and SDG 14 and 15 by reducing the amount of plastic waste that ends up choking our oceans and land. And he does this by leveraging on inclusive partnerships, engaging with people, because alone you cannot do it. That's the spirit of innovative volunteerism. And in Nigeria, a young lady inspired by innovative volunteerism is leveraging on the opportunities that plastic pollution represents in the most innovative way. She is leveraging on agro-waste and converting it to breakable, to biodegradable, take away plates, take away cutleries and cups, and much more. And these plates are not only cheaper, but they also provide an alternative to plastics. And through this, just like her counterpart, she's addressing a minimum of about 4 SDGs. SDG 1, SDG 13 on climate change, 14 and 15, life underwater, life on earth. These are realities, and the list goes on. You have Deladem in Ghana, you have Simon in Nigeria, you have Steffi in Kenya. The list goes on. The point is simple. The opportunities are endless. The opportunities are endless, and so much more when we premise plastics and waste in general in the broader context of waste recovery to world. Here, for example, if we are to recover agricultural waste, for example, to fuel briquettes or to biofertilizers and use biodegradable packaging, we will be creating multiple income opportunities in diverse areas: plastic waste recovery, clean energy, and food security, and simultaneously unlock the Sustainable Development Goals. This is the kind of integrated thinking and integrated approaches that we need to leverage to move away from talking about problems to turning problems to solutions and moving away from complaining and blaming others. That is the way, and that's what we must have in our mind. And I will leave you with 5 takeaways that you should ponder on, and please listen through very carefully. The first one is that fundamentals do not change. Whether you complain, nothing will change. Whether you talk about plastics pollution, whether you talk about any kind of pollution, you talk about climate change, you're talking about that particular issue, whether it is plastic pollution or it is climate change that is reversing the gains that we made in the past decades, it means nothing to a mother in the village. It means nothing to a mother in the village. Anything you discuss, you must always have that in your mind, that if I'm discussing a problem, the solution should be to change the life of a mother in a village or a child somewhere who is not having an opportunity to benefit. Because we live in a competitive world, what is called market economies. Global competitiveness and market economies are real. The implication of this is that the sustainability of anything you do will be dependent on how you execute it as an enterprise. And why I'm driving down this road is that it means your intervention to address plastic pollution must align with unlocking income opportunities while touching the lives of others. And for this, the approach is to integrate plastics within the broader waste recovery to world paradigm that I've already mentioned. And we must use a multidimensional approach that will ensure plastics can ride on the market potential of other more lucrative areas. Let me give a very practical, simple example. Converting agricultural waste to fuel briquettes is a $20 billion a year industry that replaces charcoal use while preserving forests. Deladem is doing this. Simon is doing this with their team through leveraging on innovative volunteerism. Mensa in Togo is doing this. Isaac is doing this in Uganda, and the list goes on. DRC, Zimbabwe, they are doing this. And I'm bringing this up, and I want you guys to listen very carefully. If we devise biodegradable packaging to replace plastic packaging for these briquettes, it will mean that our efforts to address plastic waste ride on the market advantages of a much more lucrative area of waste recovery to energy. And this is what you must have in mind, that your efforts must make economic sense by providing solutions to areas that most need it and most relevant to communities. In this case, practical example I am giving here, this is reality, this is not theatrics, and this is not poetry I'm talking here. I'm not a politician. I talk policy and action. In this case, while a household or eatery may not pay attention to you talking to them about plastics, they will automatically take up an attractive, affordable, biodegradable packaging that is used to package what interests them, the fuel briquettes. What am I trying to say? I started by saying fundamentals are the same. A mother in a village wants a solution. She wants not to depend on firewood so that she can be able to have briquettes that can cook her food faster without necessarily having to pollute herself. And if they're cheaper alternative to charcoal, she will go for briquettes. But she will listen because you are bringing a solution, not telling her about plastics. And she will buy it because you package it with a biodegradable. Within this broader dimension, and the beauty is there are favorable policies in every country. What it will take is for you and me to calm down from our high mental horses that tells us that having a certificate or having a PhD, I had a PhD 11 years ago, but that means nothing unless that PhD touches a life. It is just as good as it can get. We must calm down from our mental high horses that tells us that having a certificate bequeaths us to be entitled. That is wrong. It bequeaths us to have the responsibility to solve problems. That takes me to my second point. We always say in this continent, no, we don't have anything, I don't have anything to start with. What you can only have what you have because you have little power over what is not yours. You can't control what is not yours. That's a reality. The first thing you must always ask yourself anytime is to determine what you really have. And what you have is yourself. It is your skill, but you must improve that skill because that is your only value. I've heard a lot of people say we are not invited to the table. If you're invited to the table and you come empty-handed, what value are you going to bring to the table? The next time they will not invite you. You don't even need to be invited to the table. You need to create your own table and get a chair that is even folded so you can carry the table and your chair anywhere. The opportunities are enormous. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I mentioned of a sociology graduate and other young people across the continent who trained himself leveraging the free knowledge on the internet and established an enterprise of making pavement tiles from plastic waste. He leveraged on the spirit of innovative volunteerism and collectivism because alone you cannot do it. I know a lot of young people say, oh, can I do it? Can I do it? Yes, you can do it, but you will not be successful if you work alone because the essence of innovative volunteerism is to banish selfishness, is to banish that attitude that it is me, me. You will need to forge selfless collaborations with others of like-mindedness. And the intent is to find a space to drive this integrated waste recovery solution where plastic waste can find a space in building opportunities. That you can create your own enterprise. You don't need to wait for anybody to do so. We are here to guide you. That takes me to my third point. I have said this over and over, and I'll keep saying this anytime I have an opportunity to have a conversation. Context is everything. If you do not understand context, you lose it. You will not be able to provide viable solutions. Context is everything. We must take time to understand issues in their entirety. And I say this, and I have been saying it, and I will keep repeating it. Africa's context is uniquely African. What do I mean? What works elsewhere does not necessarily mean that it will work. Even in the context of Africa, what works in West Africa doesn't necessarily mean that it will work in East Africa, or in Southern Africa, or in Northern Africa, or in Central Africa. These are facts. Then what about a narrative about a continent that we just embrace without questioning it? And the narrative or dimensions presented sometimes are presented without being critiqued. We don't critique them. Critiquing is not that you are against anything. Context is very, very important. Let me take climate change, where I have been in this area for 11 years. That's my specialty. And I can talk here with unending authority because that's my area of work. For the past 11 years, I've been in this area. Climate change is already impacting this continent. Facts. Africa is warming faster than most of the regions in the entire globe. Facts. Africa is the most vulnerable continent to climate change. Facts. But the question we must ask is, how can we turn climate change from a challenge to an opportunity? Because the fact that the continent is the most vulnerable continent to climate change also provides an opportunity. Simply means that we stand to gain the most if we leverage climate action solutions as an opportunity. And then we drive that narrative to inspire young people to leverage on those challenges as opportunities. That is not the case. The case is climate change is there. Yes, it is there. Though it is going to, if you don't have money, you cannot do anything. Of course, then we need money, but money alone is not the only answer. We need you to retool their skills so that they can develop passion and start creating their own climate action enterprises. We get these narratives choreographed thousands of kilometers away, and we voluntarily ascribe to such narratives without interrogating and coming up with more befitting counter-narratives. And I'll use this example of climate change. Climate change action in Africa is presented as a social issue. It is presented as an issue that if there is no money, if money no day, we'll not go do no nothing. And that is the narrative that we pick up. Oh, money no day, now we'll not go do no nothing. But we have never explored and expanded on the narrative that in fact climate change is with us. It is causing havoc, manifesting itself in forms of droughts and floods, and inflicting pain on citizens. But how can we be able to leverage climate action as an enterprise and as an investment opportunity for Africa? That is the way to go. And let me take, and I've said this so many times, I take deforestation. It's a challenge for the continent and the world because of charcoal burning. Traditionally, we are prescribed to plant trees. That's important. We should plant trees. But we have not interrogated, in addition to planting trees, what can we do to inspire and engage young people to get into other alternatives to take off the pressure from planting trees? If you look on the flip side, the broader waste recovery paradigm provides the most accessible, non-capital intensive for every young person in the continent to be able to engage in production of briquettes. Because we know this, over 80% of households in sub-Saharan Africa rely on wood-based biomass energy, firewood, and charcoal for cooking. Facts. We know this. And we also know that up to 67% of forest degradation is attributed to firewood and charcoal harvesting. And this means that the waste recovery to energy sets us on a track to recoup the over 20 billion charcoal industry in the continent that can then be able to create opportunities for youth. from the briquette making to fabricating clean cook stoves and trading in them are opportunities that are just enormous. But we don't talk about this. Only talk about money, no day now, no go do no nothing. That narrative and context must change. And you guys must from today discuss climate change as an investment opportunity. Anything less than that means that we are not on the same page. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, we must not blindly follow narratives, but rather interrogate and contextualize them to unlock more opportunities for us. And your skills should align to tap such climate action enterprise opportunities and then become an innovative volunteerism actor. Innovative volunteerism is for you, not for me. It's for you to retool your skill and become a solution provider to the challenges we face as a global community and as the African continent and your own country. That's your responsibility. That takes me to the fourth point on finance. The finance question always comes up. Yes, for legitimate reasons. As an African proverb reminds us, money is sharper than the sword. It speaks of the importance of financial capital. But one key question that is hardly answered, and again, it goes back to context. We don't ask this question. We don't want money, now money come, make money come. And I've always said this. If you were given $1 trillion US today, as young people, without the skills, how will you bring impact to scale? Money is part of a means, it is not an end. On top of money, you need to have a skill. You need to have built alliances, inclusive partnerships, and develop interest and passion around an area that when you were to have a means to accelerate it, you are ready. Money upfront without ideas kill ideas and bring fights. Distinguished colleagues, on this aspect of finance, as I've said, the importance of financial capital cannot be underestimated, but the question we must ask is, do we need finance at scale or impact at scale? And my answer to that is Africa needs impact at scale. And for this, finance cannot be approached in the same traditional sense that has been done for the past years. But it must be approached from an innovative thinking perspective, from an innovative financing perspective, building on already existing structures that are known in this continent. I am talking of the already well-established structures of low-risk financing that we call communal cooperatives. This exists in nearly every village in the continent. What needs to happen is for each and every one of you to come together and join hands together and pull together and join a cooperative and raise little capital and start your own climate action enterprises. It is through this cooperative that you also build relationships with actors who may end up even being your clients. And this is how we can bring impact to scale. And that's how we can encourage collectivism with little resources bringing higher impact, not the individualistic tendency. And that takes me to my last point. And I've spoken on this in so many occasions, and I will speak on it again today. People fold their arms and say that we want power. Which power do you want? You already have power. The power is in your hands. It's what I call soft power. We need to leverage our soft power to reboot Africa's narrative of now, because Africa's fierce urgency of now is to reboot that narrative. You cannot be able to do it because it has not been validated. To reboot that narrative that if you don't have anything, you cannot do anything, whereas at the same time, you have yourself. And this narrative, leveraging on soft power, and the soft power you have, very easily displayed, even using this medium we're discussing here today, tastes in fashion, or it is different, whether it is Afrobeat, etc., and lifestyles, they share on social media. It means that you already have the power, the soft power you are using to change the narrative on things that suit you. But we're not using it to change the narrative and the story of Africa. We're not using it to communicate successes of others because we like to pull others down. This is These are examples of soft power. Youth influencing each other's choices through social media on a global scale. And this is a manifestation of soft power. In the not so distant past, I have said this, you would have leveraged on the internet, and especially Twitter, to change not just how things can be done and even cause media houses to pull down certain words that they have talked about certain countries. This is soft power. So my message is quite very simple today. Don't waste your soft power. Use your soft power to engage your peers, to make them see that there are opportunities in turning waste to wealth. That waste is a resource. It is actually a resource. To catalyze groups of alliances, use it to catalyze that group of alliances beyond your country, because you should never ever make the mistake to limit yourself only to where you come from. I am from Cameroon, but I do not only limit my thinking to Cameroon. I am an African. I do not only limit my thinking to Africa. Become a global citizen wherever you are and understand how the world works. And you have it in your hand, and leverage your soft power to brand yourself as a solution provider. And always remember that he who runs after good fortune runs away from peace. As you set forth to become a climate action solution provider, to beat this war against plastic pollution and ensure that we can build a resilient continent, never look at material gain, but rather look at the lives that you touch, especially in the communities, and inspire people to see themselves as part of the solution rather than make them ask the question, am I useful? Because everyone is useful. Everybody have got something to offer, but they need inspiration. They need to be told you can do it. Yes, you can do it. They need to be challenged to do things in a good way to solve problems. And always know that material will become a natural consequence of your competitive solutions. But material can never be put as an end. Focus on perfecting your solution to make it the most affordable and competitive, but with intent to touch lives. And in doing so, please, this word selflessness should become your middle name, and work with the willing. Not everybody will embrace your ideas. Don't fear that somebody will steal your idea, but know that not everybody will embrace your idea. Nobody can steal your idea, because it is passion that implements. I keep saying this. It's passion that implements, not positions. I always know, as we are reminded in scriptures, in the parable of the talents, that those who fail to selflessly use their talents to bring good will be punished, while those who apply themselves selflessly will be rewarded with more. Choose wisely and get rewarded. We're also reminded again that to those that much has been given, much will be expected. Today's generation, you and me, with access to knowledge and information, make things much easier. It means that we have been given much, and much will be expected from us. Decide, therefore, to use the expansive knowledge and work selflessly with your peers, and ensure that the battle against plastics can unlock and build a climate resilient Africa. Thank you.